Here we go. All right, tonight we have some incredible things to work on. And the big thrust of this recording is really going to be all about defining what does success in a relationship look like for you, and how can you take the lead to actually achieve that goal. So before we start running full sprint on this marathon, I want to just quickly kind of review some of the highlights of things that we have gone over so far. And that includes putting together a profile that starts to define who you truly are in your authentic form right now. And we're going to use that information again. And in our first session, we had tweaked a couple of the things that we, of the sentences that we use to describe who we are, as well as who we are looking to invite in. And I wonder if it's been a week now, has anything changed for you in this week's time? And I will invite responses from that. Anything so far?
I would say I looked into that other site, The League.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'd never heard of before until you guys mentioned it. And I have to say the type of people that are on there are a completely different caliber from all your just like mainstream sites. And so I'm much more pleased with the people I'm seeing on there than anywhere else.
Great. So it's interesting and you bring up a really good point, because you want to be in the right pond. Mm-hmm. If you're fishing for a saltwater fish, but your hook is in fresh water, it's going to be really hard to find the right fit. So, and sometimes you don't know that because, you're on these other sites. So could this partner who you're looking for be on these other sites? It is interesting when you find something that starts to resonate with you better, things do open up and change. And that vibration, remember our photographer, Cheryl Brigman, was talking about presenting the vibe that you really want to look for. And that's what really started this whole project, this whole series, because a couple of people were showing me who they were attracting. And really, you want to make sure that you're presenting yourself right. So who you're attracting is equal to what you're looking for, because that's what everybody wants. It is what everybody wants. So that's very exciting. I've heard that from a couple other people as well. And just changing the words or being more specific, like I like to travel. And then we started to detail traveling includes, do you 5-star hotel travel? Do you prefer to camp when you're traveling? Is your type of traveling on an airplane, a boat? What type of travel or what type of adventurer are you? Because that again is going to be specific, and you're the siren. I never thought of it this way. We are the SIREN sirens, making that call to invite the right people into us when we're looking and dating and that sort of thing. Okay, we also talked about how to unlock your divine feminine. And before I go into too much detail on that one, would anyone like to speak up of something that was highlighted or that you learned from working with Coltrane Lord?
I was wondering if Sonia was going to
pipe up on that one.
About her, there we go. I know Sonia did her homework on that.
Yeah. What do you think the homework was?
I thought, the homework to do the bath and compliment your body parts like from head to toe was interesting.
Did they respond well? Did you get a thank you?
I had too many C-sections, so things didn't all go back together. So if there's some, things like that where I was like, okay, I just need to make peace with you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was very helpful.
I went so far, I actually made a public acknowledgement, which I guess I'm about to do now. Here it is again. Some guy who never met them named my bosom Natasha and Brigitte, so that stuck. I was thanking them. We were talking? Oh, I know. We were talking about money in this call that I was on, and deep-rooted things of how, what's our relationship with money growing up. And I said, yeah, I grew up with the mindset of I was told you can't get blood from a turnip. However, then I delivered a baby, and it was like Natasha and Brigitte could keep this baby alive. I'm like, you kind of can get, blood from a turnip, because I could nurse this baby into becoming a huge person. I mean, I didn't nurse him that long, but not still nursing. But so that was really notable for me, because I was told my money was, you can't get something from nothing. But in fact, I'm like, wow, there's an abundance here. You just need to be in the right place at the right time and the right things happening. And then you have, the bounty that you need. There was another one like that.
What I find is that I'm thinking about it more, like on a daily basis.
Good. Yeah, super big gifts that she shared. She also, I swear I'll never see a blueberry or think about a blueberry the same as to when, reach from your pelvic floor for the blueberry in the center of the earth and pull it up into your heart. I'm like, that'll always be the way. It'll always be the way. And she inspired us to talk about the different personas that we represent in the world. And then Cheryl Bigman shared with us tips to create your own brand and vibe to create your persona in 5 quick images. Anybody want to talk about that, or did you change anything as a result of that?
No, I think mine was pretty diverse to begin with. I don't like to have images that are all the same thing.
Right. So confirmed that you had the right stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. I've got some really good examples that I'll include in that module of, here are pictures that work and here are pictures that don't. One of the things that I learned is that women staring straight on is exactly what catches a man's eye. And for men, when women want like a little bit of a off-center glance. I don't know why that is. Were there any other big ones that we didn't catch on film? I don't know. I loved that the photographer stepped in front of the camera to show us what she was representing. So that was awesome. All right. So tonight, and any other questions, or just want to keep the open dialogue going?
No.
Okay, then let's go on with it. I'm going to share my PowerPoint with you. That keeps me on track. So we're talking about relationship success. And I've got a little music in the background here, but here we are, we're walking on the beach and we're thinking about our lives and our purpose here, and what do we want to welcome into our lives, and how do we want to change our lives as a result of who we would like to have relationships with, either friends, family, community, or intimate relationships. Because as we pull those into our lives, it affects everything. And when we are inviting in a partnership, then that improves and changes exactly every single moment of the rest of our lives. So here we are, we're figuring that out. And what we really want to know is, it looks so sweet and smooth and suave like a walk on the beach, or is it a little bit messy? When you invite someone into your life, is it a little chaotic? Are you inviting someone in for a water fight, a party, for the real you? What does life really look like when you envision inviting someone into your life? Is it that, everything's clean, or is it a little bit off kilter? Is it looking like, a glass of wine over dinner, or is it looking like a pillow fight with everyone in the family on the bed at once? Or is it literally just letting go and seeing what happens? Because the way that you define who you want to invite into your life is going to determine what's really happening. Because right now, you are the siren, you are sending out the message. And what I say is the pain of the problem of, in this case, not having a partner, is greater than the action required to resolve that problem. And that's when you know it's time to take action, because that person is sitting on the other bench thinking the same thing and wanting that same desire. This is ultimately the law of attraction. So that person you're looking for is probably staring out at the same body of water or looking up at the same skies as you are, going, where are you and how can we find one another? And that to me is very reassuring. So really, it's just, how do we bridge that gap from Pain Island to Pleasure Island to find this person? And what does relationship success look like for you? And are you willing to do what it takes to get there, and make sure that if it's not the right vision, you can step away until you are finding the right track for you? So here's what I want to talk about, and we can talk about this as a group. Oops, I went ahead there. So let's say you are going through the process, and then you're asking yourself, how will you know? How will you know you're on the right track? How will you know that you're getting closer when you're saying, nope, nope, nope? How do you know when you're getting involved and that chemistry is starting, or maybe you're moving through the relationship cycle? How do you know when to establish a boundary and say, this is good right here. This is how I need to identify me. This is how we're going to identify you. And together we are something greater. And how do you know when it's time to cut and run? Because that's a big deal too. If a relationship that you're envisioning, it feels like it's on track for so long that you've invested in it, but something keeps telling you, no, this is not someone I can grow developmentally with, then it's time to reevaluate and say, this is not exactly the right person to be moving forward on this track with. And also, it's, when do you upgrade that relationship? So here's what I'm referring to. This is, I should trademark this thing. The relationship cycle, I say it starts with discovery. I mean, you could meet someone organically in the wild, and there's something attractive that starts a conversation or an engagement of some sort. At that point, then there's an assessment. And I actually feel that this goes on a very deep basis. We're looking at physical appearance, we're looking at body language, we're looking at communication, we're listening to tone, cadence in which someone's speaking, the vocabulary, how articulate. We are in moments, we're making so many assessments. And I think this happens with all of our senses. Personally, I think the biggest one is the sense of smell. I think that tells us chemically how much of a match this person is for us. And that's something that's really challenging right now because we are distanced. So we need to rely on so many other things so that we know that when the sense of smell hits, that chemistry is secured. And then we have engagements, and we have these interactions with this person who, these shared experiences are what bonds us together. And again, before we were in a position where virtual dating was really the only way to go, we would have these organic connections happen either at school, in the workplace, as you're going through the people in your neighborhood, as you're going through your regular daily life, you encounter these possibilities. Those interactions are now being replaced with very clear intended connections with virtual dating. And then we decide at some point that this person is enough like someone who could move through the relationship cycle with us that we start to engage with them. And there's something so important about understanding this relationship cycle, because there's a huge amount of respect to know that somebody is not in a position to move a relationship through casual to committed. It's like if you're thinking to have a long-term relationship with someone and you want to have children and they don't, there's such a disconnect there that needs to be a conversation that comes up. So it's important to know where people are at in their relationship cycle, to know how linked this relationship can be for you. And actually, here's the secret sauce. The relationship cycle is actually a spiral, because when you get into a relationship and you're moving from chemistry to having these bonding experiences to relating and casually dating someone, and then even making a commitment to one another, and we'll talk through each of those steps at another point in time, then each of you grow in developmental ways, and you're either growing together or growing apart. And that creates a whole new level on this spiral where you're discovering one another in a whole new way. Or maybe you're changing together, changing communities, changing by becoming partners together, changing by welcoming children into the world, change by raising them, and then you go through this discovery cycle all over again. Then when you become empty nesters or different jobs or whatever developmental stages you go through in your life, actually create this relationship cycle to be a spiral. So it's important to ask yourself again, are you on the right track? Is this someone you're growing together with, or you believe the two of you are close enough on this track that you can grow together with them? And if not, how do you establish that acknowledgement with all good care and love for all the things that you have shared together, and say, you are not the right one for me. And then in your own mind, know very well that you're getting closer. And also to know, when is it time to say, this is what works for me and this is what doesn't work for me. And when to say, this isn't the right fit, versus, you know what, I'm feeling good about this. This is where I'm at in it. Let's move things forward. And as we begin a relationship, I want to point this out because it's important for us to remember, when you're in the very beginning of this discovery phase, everyone gets excited. There's potential and there's possibility. And let's say you're going on a date and you're excited to meet this person, you're getting dressed up, or it could be, and it's like, oh, this is going to be it. Maybe this is the one. Are you the one for me? And you get all the way and you start to move through this relationship cycle. And then there's this huge letdown. And your brain is like, what was I thinking? How did I not see this? It's not your fault. You're doing the research, and to adjust the expectations in such a way that you're doing the research can make this entire process so much fun. So here's what I'm talking about. What does success look like for you in dating? So rather than just saying, I'm married, I got 2.5 children, we got a dog, we got a white picket fence, really defining and refining that definition is one of the kindest things that you can do for yourself. And it's a time-saving one, and it will expedite your journey, to determine, where are you right now? Like a reality board. Like, who are you? What are you all about? Are you more than just you? Are you kids? Are you dogs? Are you, what profession are you that's specific? So to create a reality board of who you are, and you don't have to be exotic or, you know, the best at things, but who you truly are, and then to identify what your goals are in a relationship is a great exercise. So let's take a minute and just do a little bit of reality boarding. And we can do this off camera in a little bit, but come up with 5 things of who are you now. And if you want to share them, you can share them. These could be the personas we talked about. These could be roles that we hold, like a title. These could be, you know, if you're into extreme sports, it might be important for you to invite someone in who is either entertained by that or enjoys doing that. If I love to sail. One of my deal breakers is someone who's seasick, because they would either be miserable or I wouldn't go because I wouldn't want to put them in an uncomfortable position. Okay, now here's your biggie. I want to talk about core values, and I will give you a list of core values, but if you can come up with like 2 to 5 core values, what are the most important things to you? And as I will name off a bunch of them, pick 2 to 5. Competence, decisiveness, efficiency, entrepreneurship, friendship, fairness, gratitude, involvement, joy, leadership, merit, nature, community, detachment, excitement, excellence, forgiveness, fame, honesty, independence, inner harmony, job tranquility, loyalty, order, energy, family, beyond expectations, integrity, love, patience, privacy, humor, intellectual challenge. So I have a whole sheet of these, and the exercise that we go through is we circle the ones that are important to us, and then we pick our top 5 core values. And the reason for doing that is, one, you can use these words and their definitions in your profile to describe who you are, making it easier to create that profile. In addition, do the exercise again for who you would like to welcome into your life. They may be the same 5 core values, they may be different. Then, what is love going to look like for you once you find it? And this is this vision board that everyone is always like, this is the perfect time to be defining, what is your goal? What are you really looking for? And the reason that I keep kind of sculpting this vision in your mind is because it's going to make it very, very easy for you to identify who you're looking for without going, maybe he can do it, maybe he can't. And we talked about a cat is a cat. I think you got that reference now, because if you're going to try and fall in love with someone who isn't going to fit into your vision board, then you're not going to be happy, and neither is that person. So I call it a cat is a cat when you identify someone and adore them for exactly who they are, even if they aren't the right person to go the long haul with, if that's what you're looking for. So in this vision board, what are your desires? In a perfect world, what would your life together look like? What would it feel like? If you're in your mind's eye, what do you see, hear, smell, touch? What are you doing? What are the activities that you're sharing together? And how will your life change? Okay. So now we can play a little game here. And this is how to ignite the masculine energy by using your feminine energy. And this isn't male or female. It's just that strong strength, the yin yang versus, force versus flow, however you want to define that. And these are ways to demonstrate a welcoming into a relationship in an ease and flow. And there are 7 of them here. One is receiving joyfully. And what does that mean? So let's, we can all participate in this. So you can take yourselves off mute if you want to play. So for example, can you give a time or think of a time when you allowed someone to do something for you graciously? They're smiling about this one. I like it. Would any of you like to, are you blushing when you're smiling? I don't know. Does anyone want to give an example of that?
I'll just share a funny one. When Kira and I had a first date, we ended up going to the county fair, and then the next day we went golfing with his best friend and his girlfriend, and we had some time to barbecue at my house. It was like day before 4th of July or something, and he asked if he could help in the kitchen. I'm like, sure. I was like, help in the kitchen. So he was going to cut up some fruit for the tart I was making, and he looked at my knives and they were completely not sharp and probably dangerous to boot. And so he's like, do you have a knife sharpener? And I was like, I don't know. And I found one of the hone things and another one that you pull the knife through, and it was, all bad news. And I like, product of divorce, no sharp knife in the house. And so he sharpened all my knives and has ever since.
Super great gift.
Yeah. And it was like, you can sharpen my knife. I was like, very welcome. So
right. It gave him a sense.
Inside our wedding rings, it says come closer, because that was like what we said in, holding the knife, come closer. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. He had purpose. He knew that he contributed in a valuable way. So it's really in giving we do receive in that. And that was a beautiful example of that, receiving joyfully. Thank you. Feeling safe. Now, here's a big one, especially in online dating, and we'll talk about red flags and green lights in the future, but making yourself feel safe so you don't have to be guarded or in fight or flight mode. And how do you do that? How do you make yourself feel safe? And there are things you can do until the trust is built with this person. But choosing the right partner is certainly one way to do that. Setting this is an action I think is vital to take, especially early on, but early and often. Set the tone of your expectations and set accurate expectations, as well as speak up when things aren't feeling right to you. So that's establishing boundaries and saying, this is my expectation, or people will ask, what are you looking for? Be clear. You will have complete clarity as we continue through this process. And when you create a picture that they see they can fit into, that's when someone's going to step in. And that's why they say, oh, when you least expect it, it's like, no. You're creating a very clear picture. So when the right fit fits, it's obvious and you don't miss that opportunity. What else you all want to share an experience of creating a situation where you knew that you were safe in the relationship?
I met a guy one time, and our first meeting was actually at a dog park. And even though I'm a breeder, I was the one who brought my dog. He was. And so, you know, we walked around and it was easy to kind of, you know, break the ice, having, you know, that common interest. And it I guess you say it makes you feel safer. It makes you feel like you're able to open up easier because you have a little bit of an intermediary there. So it's not just the two of you like staring at each other.
Right.
It gave us something else to talk about and interact over. And
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was easier. It was
having an environment where there's common ground is a beautiful way to start to set those interactions and shared experiences. And that's how we grow together as people, even distance, that's how we grow together. Moving from your head to your body. Now, this is going to happen to you at the speed, at a different, I would imagine, different speed at different times based on who you're with. But what I mean by that, and really the rest of these examples, are getting into your body and being able to experience the world through your senses and connecting with other people. And that's really my definition of life. What they say is circular movements, circular energies, like, you know, moving salsa type of movements versus straight line energy of just going for a run. But whatever it takes, you know, if you reach out to someone or you get, you know, and a hug close is amazing. And if they add a spin in there, it just is like Shazam. So that's what I mean by using the energy to a circular movement or softening it. Anyone want to speak to that one, or did we get it? Choosing, these are moving with intention, choosing clothes or fragrance or skincare routine, focusing on your own self-improvement, highlights that you feel good about yourself. And you know what? That's the kind of person someone wants to be with. I mean, in your vision board there, did you be like, I want to be with someone who is lazy and doesn't take care of themselves, who won't get up and, you know, get a cup of coffee, or doesn't feel the importance of engaging or participating, hasn't cared for themselves. You know, it's like it doesn't invite somebody in to see that they aren't caring for themselves. And the real reason for that, there could be all respect on it and no judgment. But the reality is we're choosing someone, and I know I'd said this earlier, who could make decisions for us in the way we would want them to be made on our behalf if we were unable to make them. And if someone is demonstrating that they're taking care of themselves in a refined way, that's attractive. It doesn't matter what they look like or what the social hierarchy is or anything else, that they are paying attention to the big picture and the details in self-care. What I've been told that a male looking at a female, that the first thing that they look at is hair. And, you know, everyone thinks it's going to be eyes or bosom, but hair is the answer to that question, because it shows that you are taking care above and beyond. So that's what I've been told by the experts, that the men are looking at your hair first. Self-care shows, again, that you will take care of yourself, means you're a good caretaker. You'll take care of them, and vice versa. The secret to this is making time for yourself first. And that's establishing boundaries and reminding yourself that for you to be the font of that energy, it means creating space for yourself and creating it in such a way that people honor it. That's the key on that one. Verbal and, do you want to say anything on those? Okay. Verbal and nonverbal cues. This is body language. It's, you know, showing your neck might show interest in a flirty way. but you haven't said anything. The way that we talk, or how fast we speak, or if we talk in a softer voice, or if you suddenly speak in a whisper, we naturally want to come in because we want to hear more. It shows a relaxed, intimate setting when you're speaking softly to someone because they need to try harder to hear what you're saying. It creates a pillow talk environment, my favorite. And then experiencing your sensuality, and we've got a chakra expert coming in. She's all lined up. And that's really moving from all of your energy fields. And then the other piece of that is savoring every sensual interaction. Just taking a moment like we did to recognize and acknowledge our physical presence, being able to smell something and just take the moment to go, gardenias, or to really allow a flavor to be fully experienced. Those things are so inviting because it means that you're taking the time to be in yourself and not worry about all the spinning plates we talked about last week, but being present in the moment to really appreciate the abundance of being with someone. And doing that for yourself is the best way to start that process. Anyone have anything to say on this stuff?
I know you normally see me with my hair pulled up in a ponytail, but there was a guy who I used to go out with, and I asked him one time, I said, he asked me or I asked him somehow, like, what he noticed first about me, like what is it about, you know, which feature, and his response was hair.
Nice.
And one thing that he would say all the time that I always, it just, I don't know, it was just kind of nice to hear. He would say, you know, I want to see your hair on my pillow.
Oh, what an intimate thing. And it's such a, it separates you from the rest of the world. There is not another human being who can replace that the way that you can place that or fill that space. That's why it's so delicious and inviting, because you are unique in that way. It's you and your hair he wants on his pillow all the way in. Super lovely. Yum.
Yeah.
Yum. Love it. Okay. So
Michelle, I don't know if you wanted me to mention anything about those. Do you want me to talk about
I'm actually going to invite Sequoia Stafford, our relationship and intimacy coach, to step in here and take the lead. So this is a perfect segue, Sequoia. First of all, thank you for being my guest here. Author of 2 books, and Sequoia helps and guides both men and women in relationships in the most generous and compassionate hearted way, to invite like these full and rich relationships of just delicious abundance. That's how I'm going to describe you tonight. With that, you're welcome to comment on any of this and take it from here.
Awesome. Well, hello, all of you. Thank you for having me, Michelle. I love the conversation you were just having about igniting the masculine, because one of the things that I love to teach women is that we really are the fire that men require in order to get turned on. And I have proof of this in that, you know, they generally need a picture or an image or, you know, pornography or, you know, visualizing you or, you know, a woman for their pleasure to literally be ignited. Also, when a man gets an erection, his erection is generally coming from that which his eyes and senses are experiencing. Like Michelle was just saying, most of us women don't realize we have that much power. I remember when I was trained that I have that much power, I was shocked. I'm like, what? Pussy power? What? I'm not going to be one of those girls, you know, because I was thinking, envisioning one of those girls who like flaunts her, you know, femininity and, you know, and then treats the men like shit. And that's not who I am. I love men. As a matter of fact, my first book, It's Hard, is a love letter to the men in my life saying, you know, I want to support you having delicious love relationships. But you can see the cover of my men's book is about flame and, you know, igniting the energy, because it's all about erectile dysfunction and making sure that men know that just because their skin bag doesn't work the way it did when it was a teenager doesn't mean that you know, they've lost their sexuality. As a matter of fact, the energy and the fire underneath the flesh is what's so powerful. And I was teaching men and their partners how to reignite that. And one of the things that I teach is that women are the fire. And this is a very specific topic that we learn about in tantric yoga, which is at the heart of everything I teach. So igniting the masculine really requires us, ladies, and it's actually a gift that we give men. Even if we walk into a room, if you just pulse your yoni, is what I call it, or your pussy, if you just pulse your pussy, or imagine that your pussy is like an octopus and you send those octopus legs down into the ground, which is grounding, very important, you literally will have the eyes of men just turning around. Even if they didn't know you at all, they would just automatically be like, what is going on? Because you can feel the energy of a female igniting her own fire. So when I work with couples to teach them to kind of come back together after years of kind of falling out of the bedroom, I oftentimes teach the women just to start playing around by just pulsing your PC muscle, or you're doing Kegels, but not doing Kegels so that like you're strengthening them and making them tense. I actually teach women to be like the octopus and spread out and then in, but only in so that you can relax. And those pulsing, you learn how to articulate the muscles of your vulva. And with that, you're also sending out these beautiful ripples of sexual energy, which is a gift to the world. It's a treat that I actually used to be very scared to actually do, because I had my own experiences of sexual assault and getting picked up on in ways that I didn't enjoy. So I wouldn't do any of that. As a matter of fact, I would dress, you know, uncomfortably in big sweatshirts and stuff like that so that I didn't get that attention. But when I realized that I actually have power and they're scared of me, and that this is my way of giving them little gifts, everything transformed. That made you laugh. I love that that made you laugh. So I'll take a little breath, but that's something that I wanted to like say about that. The circular movements versus the in alignment direct movements. You can bring all of the advice that Michelle just went over in igniting the masculine with the feminine. You can base all of those numbers on the characteristics of a man and the characteristics of a woman, or what I like better, especially with gender fluidity, is the characteristics of masculine energy and the characteristics of female energy. Masculine energy is very direct, unidirectional, right? Like men go in one direction, and in order to get them to change direction, they have to pick up their gears, turn their gears and then go into that next direction. We women, everything's going on at once. This is how our brains work also. Our brains are connected to everything. A man's brain is like little directions. Oh, I'm going to go into this box right now. I have to come out of the box before I can go into this next box. And so men, like my ex-husband, he would always grumble, and then he would just do. And then I would say, hey, could you help me build this fire? And then he would go do it. And I thought, well, he's just a jerk. Why is he always like, but when I realized that, oh, that's his sounds of his gears and he's just a talker, then I realized that, oh, okay, I don't have to comment on his gear sounds. I can just be, thank you for building the fire. So, the masculine.
I'm still learning that one.
Yeah. It's a big one. It's a big one. So
the man building the fire was a really good example, especially if you just called us the flame.
We are. Well, but the thing is that men really love to be of service to us and to be our heroes. There's no bigger gift you can give to the men in your life than giving them opportunities for them to be your hero. And one of the ways you do that is making requests. Now, you can make a request and be completely open to him saying no or yes with the same value. You don't have to have a no be a bad value and a yes be a good value, but making a request. A request is not an order. It's not a demand. It is not a should or shouldn't. A request is, babe, would you be willing to make a fire for us? And he might be on some other task where, he's like, I can't do it right now. Okay, no problem. Thank you. And moving from making demands and being conditional in the requests that you're making, that's a pitfall that relationships have. So anyway, yes, making the request to build a fire is you saying, I'm interested in having, this warmth and this yumminess, hey, would you go prepare the bed for our lovemaking session? Oh, what? Oh yeah. No grumbling. I'll be right back. I always know when my partner is planning to really let me fully receive in a lovemaking session, because I'll come into the bedroom for bedtime and he'll have what we call splash pads. Splash pads, well, yes. So we lay out and the oil's warm and hot, and some of the lights are down low, the candles are all on. I'm like, oh, I'm about to get some tonight.
Thank you, Sequoia, because when you were like, can you go prepare the bed for our lovemaking session? I'm like, what does that even entail? So I love that you just gave us a couple of examples.
Yeah, I could actually show you, but I don't think that's what's necessary. But
that might be a different class.
Yes. So this is what I call love leadership. Now, love leadership is something that, Michelle and I were talking about as me coming on and having this conversation with all of you. I talk about it in both my books for men and for women. My female book is I'm Not Jealous. It's the ethical non-monogamous guide to free love relationships without suffering. See, women, we kind of get in our heads during sex and think about why, is he touching me there when I really want him to touch me here? And am I going to get the orgasm tonight, or am I going to fake it tonight? Or, don't fake it, ladies. Trust me, communication is always better. And men are kind of dealing with their reputation as a man, which is what my first book is about, with their sexuality. So in I'm Not Jealous, I really am trying to teach women how to own their sexual autonomy, and the sovereignty as a woman is to become the leader of your own life. And Michelle and I were talking about that, and this is a really juicy topic, because I think that in order for all of us women to get the relationship that works for us, we have to be responsible, have integrity, have authenticity, and be up to something bigger than ourselves. And those are the 4 characteristics of a leader that I talk about in my book. And I think that once we all become the queens of our own domain, and we come from a place of generosity, and owning our own domain, owning our own love life, and asking for men to show up into that domain in a way that works for us, then you can take someone's yes and you can take someone's no, with a neutral value that allows us not to be jealous about people who have something that we want, because it's all about you creating it for yourself. So I can go into that even deeper if you want, Michelle, but I'm going to pass the ball back over to you and let you kind of let me know what else you want me to talk about.
Will you tell us those 4 categories again?
Yes.
Becoming the queens of our own domain.
Yes. So can I, do you mind if I share my
Can you? Do you need some permission?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Let me see.
I have now given it to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. You've got I gave you the power.
Awesome. Okay. The only thing is, I'm like, okay, I have the power, and now let's see. I'm working on. Okay, so you guys are going to see yourself for just a second, and then I'm going to go over here. I think I'm doing this. Okay. Okay, so where's my little arrow? So love leadership. Can you see it, or is the?
It's okay. We can get it.
Okay, great. So love leadership right here has 4 characteristics. Integrity is being whole and complete. Authenticity is being true to our core. Responsibility is being cause in the matter. And the 4th characteristic of a leader is the purpose, and that is seen as being up to something bigger than yourself. So, we all kind of understand what integrity is, but I want to really talk about integrity from a whole different perspective. Integrity is something that actually works. Doesn't have anything to do with morality, doesn't have anything to do with, well, you did it that way last time, or, it's a bicycle with a bicycle wheel that has all of its spokes, it's inflated, and it's rolling down the road as it's supposed to, as it's intended to work. Okay. Integrity is being whole and complete. Imagine a pie, and if you take a piece out of the pie, that pie no longer has the integrity to keep the filling in it. It'll spill out. A bicycle wheel that has spokes broken, it's going to be flat on some sides. The wheel will still work. It's just going to take a lot more energy from you. It's going to be really frustrating, and it's not going to be actually a pleasant, enjoyable experience rolling down the road. So integrity for me is being whole, being complete. Integrity in regards to leadership is one of the most important aspects. I personally think all 4 of these build on top of integrity. Authenticity is actually another way of saying integrity, but it's being true, which is another way of saying whole and complete and integral. But being true is really, it's subjective. So what is your truth? Well, that doesn't mean just going around and telling people when you're pissed off at them because it's your truth. I'm pissed off today. This is my truth. I'm being authentic. No. Who each and every one of us is at the core is a soul that has no boundaries, no fear, that knows that everything is fine and good, and the universe works everything out, and essentially love. So authenticity is coming back to that place of being true to your core, true to your soul, and have your expression of your physical, what I call a skin bag. Your skin bag is a reflection of who you are at the core, your soul. And Michelle and I were going into a conversation about viruses earlier today when we were preparing for this conversation.
I can ask that question if you want to open that up now.
We can wrap back around, but I was going to use this as, yeah, I was going to use this as basically an example of the way our physical form is communicating. Your skin bag, your flesh is the result of your soul and whatever your soul has done like several days ago. So it starts with the soul and it ends with the flesh. So if you're having physical problems, like let's say you have like eczema, the problem isn't with the eczema, it's with whatever was going on at the energetic soul level. And to heal something is actually to bring it back to wholeness, to bring it back to its true, purest state. So the way I work energetically when I heal people, I actually don't do anything. I just tell their souls basically what is the true vibration to bring their physical body into healing, into a heal pured state. So the reason I'm talking about that is because that's authenticity. Authenticity is being connected to our soul, and that's soulful work. Number 3 is responsibility, being the cause in the matter. So being responsible isn't just like, well, it's your fault, or like, I have to be responsible because I hurt his feelings. Like, no, be responsible with whatever we do in our lives and the effect of what we're doing, our integrity, our authenticity, and what we're doing has on other people. And that doesn't mean that you're bad or not a good person because you've done something that caused an upset over here. But it does mean that we as leaders, love leaders, we can be responsible for being the cause in the matter of everything, including the way your life actually works. Like, I am going to take 100% responsibility for my relationship working. No matter what's going on with him, it's not a 50% responsible and 50% responsible and then we become whole. We both have to be 100% responsible for the relationship working. And that's what I talk about in regards to number 3. Number 4 is really being up to something bigger than yourself is a great way of saying purpose. Like, you have to not have your own life be about your ego. And there's a really great book. Oh my God, I love this book. It's called Becoming Like God. And it's about the Kabbalah and the mysteries of the Kabbalistic mystery schools. And this author, Michael Berg, he actually puts it in a way that I absolutely love. And that is, a lot of us have ego, and ego can be said as the desire to receive for the self alone. The desire to receive for the self alone is the opposite of becoming like God. We are creators. We're all created in the image of the Creator. And where we're going for growth and development, which is at the heart of love leadership, you're going towards becoming more and more like your authentic core, which is like God. If we are going towards the desire to receive for the self alone, that's going towards ego, which is going away from, becoming your truth, your core. So the number 4, to wrap this whole thing up, when we live on purpose, being up to something bigger than ourselves, that's the servant's heart. That's the becoming. What would I do if I was becoming closer and closer to God or the creator? And that would be my summary of what a love leader is all about.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sequoia.
You're welcome.
My group's going to recognize this in a little bit. It's the same stuff. So I love that we all share the same philosophy and the same very similar messages. You'll remember that my triad here is communication, trust, and respect. When we bring this philosophy into, if we're going to lead the love and be love leaders, I'm always like, well, how do I make that practical in my daily life? And if communication, trust, and respect, which are all basically the first three that you described of integrity, authenticity, and responsibility, if you're in a partnership with someone and the communication isn't there, then really you need to rely on the trust that they're behaving in a way that you would hope and respect and expect them to, and that the respect is there, that they respect the relationship and what the agreed upon boundaries are. And then, you know, if two of those are out of balance, it's usually too much. And you have to either pull it back into balance or decide, do I continue on this relationship cycle with you? And how do you pull respect or trust back into balance? You use communication. How do you pull trust back into balance? Through respect. And I think I just lost my goal there, but pull one back into balance with the other two. And I love that you are bringing the all-encompassing, being bigger than yourselves, because that's what happens. That's the magic that happens when you're in relationships with people. So lovely. So I'm gonna ask a question, because I know having Sequoia present, sometimes it's like, I want to ask the question that many people may not wish to verbalize, or that, you know, the one that, oh my God, what do I do in this situation? It's easier just to let it go. And what I've seen, a couple of people have come to me and they've put right in their profile who they are, what they're about, what are their hobbies, what's their family situation, you know, do they love to travel, you know, and then they say, and then they add that they have herpes. And it's like, oh. So, and there's another one, I didn't prep her with the one that we talked about last week. I'll give her that one too. We're going to bring you the hard ones.
Yeah.
I know, because you're fun to get a different, it's always good to get a different perspective. So when someone is presenting themselves in their authenticity and including a virus, that if you're to be intimate with them, you may be sharing it with them, they are telling something about themselves. And if you can't handle it, clear the path. But I'm curious to get your take on that, being a relationship and intimacy coach.
Yeah. Was there a second one that we were waiting for as well? Okay, one at a time. Okay, good. Okay. So Michelle and I talked about this before. So my background is very diverse. So I have studied for years very alternative medicine practices. So homeopathy and energy medicine. So I've gone to mystery school. I understand illness and well-being from nutrition and a whole bunch of sides to it. So I'll say that first. And studied with some very interesting, very alternative people who everybody is basically saying the same thing from their different modality, is my summary. Viruses are very interesting. And what I want everybody to notice is she's talking about herpes, but we are in the middle of a pandemic about a virus, COVID. And you can see that we're all wearing condoms over our faces, basically. We're literally in the middle of a pandemic of a socially transmitted disease. And that is something that I'm interested in observing, how people are dealing with this, because I'm watching them have the same reactions as what Michelle was just saying, about, do I tell people I have COVID, herpes, AIDS, HIV? Do I say that, or do I keep it private and just hope that it's true that nobody's going to get it from me if I don't have a breakout, right? I mean, that is the big fear, that COVID is going to be transmitted when someone isn't having a breakout, when someone isn't having symptoms. Like, oh, that means that, your loved one could possibly kill you by not knowing that they have it. This is like the fear that's going on. So what I would say as an evaluation of what this person is messaging you is, wow, he's meeting one of the criteria, a lot of the criterias. He's got integrity because he's letting you know in advance. He's got authenticity because he's like, if there is a person out there who, hears from me that I have herpes and they still date me, then I'm trusting that they are okay with all the things that goes along with that. They are being responsible and not hiding something, which I don't like it when people hide things, because it's just, it's bad when you find out afterwards, right? It causes a whole bunch of trust issues. And then, he's being up to something bigger than himself. He's making sure that people start being comfortable talking about this. We wouldn't have talked about this topic if he hadn't put that in his profile. So all of those things have like a lot of stars for this person. And then, then you can have conversations. And if he's talking about herpes on his profile, I'm going to say that this person is probably going to talk about very responsible STD conversations, or STI. They're changing things. Did you know now that they call them STIs, sexually transmitted illnesses, versus sexually transmitted diseases? So anyway, whichever one I'm saying, that's what I mean. So, I find that people who are upfront like this, they are people who I want to hang out with, because that means that they're probably going to talk about positions and splash pads for sex and preparation, and like, hey babe, I would really love for you to suck my toes tonight instead of just give me a kiss on the mouth, right? Like I actually had a partner be like, no, we're not talking toes, right? Like, so I actually think that this guy is following the love leadership characteristics, and I think that that's actually really good. Now, as far as you have to then be your own love leader and go, is it integral for me to say yes to this guy when I don't want to be exposed to herpes? He's giving you a no and a yes are the same value for me. Please just don't lie to me. I'm going to be truthful. Don't lie. And that for me in the online dating world is super important. I remember when I wrote my, I'm not on online dating now, but when I did about 5 years ago, my profile, I remember saying, I'm so much more than anything that you're going to see in my photos and hear in what I write. You will have to get to know me to really know who I am. So please don't judge by this. And that was me saying, please be curious about me, because I would love to share, but I don't want you just to assume that I am these pictures and I am, these words, because I'm so much more. So I love it when somebody in a profile actually will say, I have these things going on, take me or leave me, let me know, and give me the opportunity to be known by you, and and me know you. So
beautiful.
Do you want to talk anything more about that?
I've seen that several times, which is why I wanted to bring it up. I'm cracking up because when I talk about difficult topics, it's really different than when you talk about difficult topics.
Like sucking on toes.
No, and I'm like wills and beneficiaries. Like, I guess we need to address them all. That's awesome. Would any of you like to ask Sequoia questions? Otherwise, I've got another one.
I want to add one thing to responsibility. You talked about it's not a 50-50. You have to take 100% responsibility for each of you. And the hard thing that I learned in my first marriage is that I took all of the responsibility.
Yes.
And
that's definitely a female trait.
Totally not the right thing to do. And I really have to stop doing that and really learn to just be responsible for me.
Yes. So it's so funny because when I use that term, usually I will say without the word, but I kind of wanted one word for each, being cause in the matter. And when I say cause in the matter, it's really about like, okay, so it, choosing to be the leader of your life. And that's what, I mean by responsibility. But I think that for us women, we can sometimes go into that place of, oh, I'm going to be 100% responsible, but then we take care of everything because we tend to be the caretakers.
Fixer, doer.
Being responsible actually sometimes means this is, I have a boundary here. And the boundary is, I need someone else to take this job right now because I have, too much on my plate, and being responsible would be me not doing that and asking or delegating and asking for, support.
Boundary setting. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the part of responsibility that's not the codependent version of responsibility where it's like, it's my fault. So yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sonia. Okay, Sequoia. Michelle, what else? Yes. Renee.
Hi. Sorry.
Renee,
so
hi.
I'm actually working on becoming a divorce coach. And I have a question for you. And when it comes to approaching marriage, how would you say men approach it versus women?
Ooh. Okay, tell me a little bit more about approaching marriage. Are you talking about like asking
something bigger than yourselves?
That's a really good question. I need to think about that a little bit.
I can try if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, because I'm actually trying to think about, so I am very much in the world right now of people not choosing marriages as a non-monogamous myself. And that's totally fine. I love being married and I love being partnered. And I'm kind of wondering whether or not you're talking about being partnered or specifically the marriage act?
The act of marriage. See, here's like, I can't find the data, but there's something that I've read regarding men tend to approach it more like, okay, this is it's bigger than us, right? And contrary to popular belief, the female tends to be like, it's me and the marriage. So and then there's that whole miscommunication, and a study was released that 70% of women want the divorce, and if you're a college graduate, 90% of them will want the divorce, and on average they've been thinking about it for 2 years. So once they get to that point, it's so late.
Done.
Yeah.
You made up your mind, and you guys are laughing probably because it happened to you guys.
No, right. Well, so the thing that I actually talk about my divorce a lot in my current book, I'm Not Jealous. And I talk about how jealous I was of marriages that looked like they were perfect, with the perfect guy who, comes up behind the wife at a dinner party and kisses her on the cheek and, you know, rubs her shoulders and says, "Is there anything I can do for you, honey?" Or she's preparing the meal for 100 people, you know, and I'm there like wondering where my husband is. And he was supposed to be there for, you know, 30 minutes ago. And everybody's like, "Where is your husband?" I'm like, I don't really fucking care anymore because he's the one who's not here on time. So stop talking about me, or stop talking about him, talk about me. So that's actually like how I was jealous of like these women, right? So when you're asking this question of me, I'm going to answer real quick, and then I'm going to have Michelle say what she was going to say. I really think that there's every generation has their belief about what a marriage should be like. I just happen to have been born in 1970, and I was influenced by, you know, my parents are still married. All of my grandparents were married, and I love family. That book is all about family. Like, how do you create family when family didn't show up the way you thought it was going to be? So I wanted family. I wanted a partner that stood next to me, and we decided to throw a holiday party, and he's like, "Okay, what can we do?" And and like, and then when everybody arrives, like says, "Hey everybody, so glad you're here. Wow, this is like a one huge family," because that's who I am. That's not how my husband's family was. So he's from a different generation. He's 7 years older than me. He's from the South. I'm from California. So there's a lot of demographics that go into answering your question, Renee. And that, now you're getting to understand this brain of mine is so like, I can't answer that question very specifically because it's different per person.
Without a doubt, yeah.
But I think that men kind of believe that they've checked the box, like, okay, now that's done, and you know, the family will just always be there. I don't really have to do anything else. I now have to provide for the family. And I think that's where a lot of problems in relationships happen, because I remember when I was married, Oprah had a show that asked men to kind of share their experience of being a husband. And we women are complaining that he doesn't ever come home on time. Everybody wonders where he is. He's always working. Well, the men were saying, well, I was doing that for them. I was staying at work late for them. That's my job. Like, I now have a family that I'm freaked out that I'm not going to be able to pay for the house and the cars and the kids and the clothes and the food. So a woman wants to bring her family together, in my opinion, like have more closeness and activity in the family. And I think men, and this is anthropologically true about men and women, men go out and they spend more time out hunting for the paycheck and stuff like that. So I think that marriage has a way of sending men and women in different directions, not on purpose. And that's why my work is to bring them back together. And I always say my work is to have couples spend less time in the therapist's office and more time in the bedroom. Because a marriage, in my opinion, is so that you are known and you get to know another person so intimately that, you know, you could answer questions for them, you know, in a trivia pursuit game or whatever.
Right. Dating game, or no,
Yeah.
newlywed game. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. Newlywed game. So
I think you got there, Sequoia. Renee, I'll answer your question in a different way. I know you, and I also know that you rely on research and history, and that you like to pull data and facts. So the question is, you know, what happens, what draws a man or a woman into a marriage? And you could go back, I mean, how far do you want to go back? But there were times where, you know, they were marriages put together for political reasons. There were marriages connected for land ownership or power. I don't think that changes all that much, because we may want to change our social class, our hierarchy, or and if I had to pull the two systems apart and ask for why would a female be in a marriage with a specific person and why would a man enter that same contract, I think that women were like their identity of who they represented was the family, and there was that dowry that was attached to that. They were looking for security, purpose, position. The male was also looking for identity and purpose and position and security that could be attained by having entered that contract. Today, why would a man or a woman join in this same contract? I think is addressed a little bit differently, but not that differently. Now, I feel very fortunate because Sequoia defined the relationship that I was in. Literally brought back so many memories of me preparing a party for family related by blood and related by love, is how I talk about my family that's not blood related. And it's like at the last minute, I would like decide to do a basket made from a watermelon. And my late husband would be like, why don't you do this for a living? You love it so much. And I'm like, no, this is an act of love, this watermelon basket. Or, the little touches that because he was there and we were working in a partnership, we decided that we were going to be something bigger than ourselves by inviting this gathering together. When we were deciding to enter this contract of marriage, I mean, I have some very silly stories about that, of me thinking he was going to propose. And like one day I was at the hairdresser and he calls and he says, babe, I'm going to come, but I'm going to be a few minutes late. I need to stop and pick up a bottle of wine and my suit. And I'm like, oh my God, he's going to get the best bottle of wine that made my knees weaken. And his suit, he's not really a suit wearing guy. Why would he get his suit? He's going to propose tonight. And I literally, the salon turned into a musical set. And the music was pumped up. She's gonna get engaged tonight. And there was dancing and spinning and it was unbelievable. And he drives up in the sports car and I see it's the second best bottle of wine and it's his bathing suit. Because we were going to a friend's house to use a hot tub and have I'm like, stupid girl. So there were like 3 or 4 times like that. We went to Ireland together. And I'm like, let's stay in a castle and we'll this. And I'm like creating the scene where he could propose to me. It will be fantastic. It will be stories that will be told through time. And then someone's like, yeah, they're really kind of just dank and it's not that great. And I'm like, you don't understand my motive. I'm trying to set a scene here. I'm trying to make it natural. Right. And
have you ever read the story I Want to Borrow It, or not I Want, have you ever read the story Want to Borrow a Jack?
No.
You need to look it up.
Okay.
Wanna borrow a Jack.
Okay.
And I mean, because people can take the same philosophy and use it towards good, like towards positive or towards negative, but it's all about how we set up a situation mentally ahead of time in our mind and we're anticipating a response when you don't know what's going to happen. Why are you trying to figure out and like plan that you have the whole conversation or the whole argument or the whole everything ahead of time and that's not even the direction it's going? Why are you doing that to yourself?
Right.
So look it up. Want to borrow a Jack.
I want to create that vision. Thank you. I totally will. So here's how it rolled. One night we're in like I don't know, beer and breakfast place. It was mostly beer. It was Ireland, or mostly whiskey and breakfast. And there was this huge, I mean, the bar was packed. He was out drinking the Irish. And, we had a great time. Some man invited us to his daughter's wedding the next day. Someone's giving me cooking tips. And he was like, do you got cabbage in America? We got cabbage in America. Let me tell you my ancient family secret on the best recipe for cabbage. I'm like, what is it? What is it? He says, you boil it. I'm like, that's it. I have the secrets of Ireland. So let's just say there was drinking, there was festivities. We're back to the room. It's dark. I mean, pitch black dark. And evidently, this is when he chose to propose. He got out of bed. Evidently, he got on one knee, did the big thing. I'm like, we've been drinking. I don't know. I can't even see you. The answer is going to be yes, but really, this is it? Because tomorrow, I don't even know if you're going to remember. I'm not going to, trick you into it. Well, you were drunk last night and you proposed. So this is the deal. Put a ring on it. That's not how it's going to roll. So I'm like, yeah, but really, that's the story I have to tell? Really? So I didn't say anything. And this is why I bring it up, Renee, because the next couple of days, he didn't do or say anything. And I'm like, did I just miss my opportunity? Oh my God, stupid girl, right? But this is the conversations that we had over the next few days are really the answer to your question. And he started role playing with me in a different way of what his life would possibly be like without me in it. And when he had cleared every possible scenario that his life would not be anywhere near what he wanted it to be if I weren't there. That's when he, without needing to marry for, power, land, arranged marriages, those kinds of things, his life decision, he had gone through the checklist the first night we met. Like he had made that decision in the first hour of meeting me. So he did his checklist. And then it was really the dating process to see, is there any reason not to? So he approached the whole thing of, is there any reason she should not be in my life for the rest of it? Whereas I was doing just the opposite of, is there any reason that he, I want every reason he should be in my life for the rest of it. I was looking for the security of a partner, of, someone to help balance my life out and to elbow and share the life experience with. Both of us were with that. And so to us, that's how we decided to honor one another in this way, by saying, I've got your back no matter what. I am your person. There is nothing that's going to, there is nothing that can happen to you that I'm not going to help take responsibility for. And of course that brings it up because, it went all the way to his last dying breath from a 5-year cancer journey. His words were, I love you. We got the best of it. We were so fortunate. And I know I have the capacity to help people understand how to have those relationships with such ease and grace, because sometimes we let the silliest things get in the way. And I learned so many amazing things that we're sharing through this series. The obligation Richter scale, for example, it's like, do you want me to listen, guide, or help? It's like all these tricks and tools to relationships, the relationship cycle of, where are you at right now? Because this is how I'm feeling. When we decided to be married, it was so easy. And he did. Oh my God. Just to finish the other part of the story, we were at what we called the Snooty House, the Marlborough House. One of the finest homes in Ireland. And it's a restaurant, bed and breakfast. And they took a look at us and they were like, yeah, there's no place for you to stay here. And he's like, that can't be. And they're like, well, the West Wing, it literally cost us a month's rent for the one night. I didn't know about it. He booked us there. It had the canopy bed and like pawns and obelisks and the bathtub with the feet and a fireplace big enough for the whole cattle ranch to be in. And he got down on his knee and said, would you spend the rest of your life with me? And I said, yes. So actually I said, did you ask my father first? So that's another story, but at least then I had the magic story. And I don't usually, it's like I can choose to tell the whole story or part of the story. But I think that answers your question a little bit of why would a man make this commitment? He's making the commitment because he can't imagine a moment without this person in his life. And a woman is going to feel the same way, but he may approach it through identity, connection, to be something bigger than himself. Security. I think it's more of a partnership and equality now than it used to be. So I think we enter this contract with similar goals in mind. And then being part something bigger than yourself is, it's kind of a third entity that you can't have without both of you there. And in our case, that could have meant bringing the 0.5 in, the dog, that we then learned how we, so on the relationship spiral, we got married, we brought the dog in. This is how we care for someone else. So we knew how we cared for each other. Then we brought kids in. This is how we deal with all the things that happen with kids. So that was actually a nice segue to how do you transition a relationship cycle to a relationship spiral. And I think, does that answer your question? And we can probably look up the stats for it if you want.
No, that was beautiful.
Stats guy. I love you too.
I do want to say that also what I think we're both saying is it's really about partnership and not how that partnership is contractually expressed. And Renee, since you're going into divorce coaching, the way I see marriage is it's a contract. And just like any business contract, or employment contract, just because you say, yes, I'm going to work for X company, doesn't mean that you are then obligated to work for that company forever. If that company's working environment and salary does not work for you at some point, you can say, I'm ending this contract as I have a right to my own, right? And in marriage and divorce, the way I was able to get through my divorce with dignity and respect and integrity, workability, this contract no longer works for me. And then I had no emotions about the way it went. It was about it either works or it doesn't work. And therefore, I'm not going to treat him like a bad person just because it didn't work. Now, this is not the way he dealt with it. He came from a family and a perspective that totally didn't work for me, that because I'm now the divorced wife from him, I am now no longer exist, no longer a good person, and don't have a relationship with him. And I'm somehow a horrible person, just because in my view, the contract was over and we came to that agreement together, not by being, bad towards each other, but just like, it doesn't work. You're not getting what you want. I'm not getting what I want. Let's end the contract and go be happy in other places and raise our daughter from a place of responsibility and integrity. So I personally think that men and women could come from marriage, come to marriage as this is a contract. Let's create it how it works for us, whether we do it with the government or not the government, meaning, through those channels. And partnership is really what we're talking about. And so we can go into a contractual partnership and divorcing, say, both of us, let's say if it's not working, that we have the right to end the contract responsibly, lovingly, and move on with respect and care and compassion. And that's for me why I really don't know how to answer the first question, because I don't think the way most people do. And I want to teach people how to come to marriage and partnership, which is what Michelle and I were talking about earlier. I teach people how to have sacred partnership, no matter whether you have a contract or not. And sacred partnership is growing and developing yourself as a soulful, loving human being. And if you're not getting what you want to out of a relationship, to have a conversation about that and to not villainize the person or take half their shit, but like actually go, this isn't working. I love you and I want you to find love. Please go off and do that. And I'm going to do the same. And I, send you off with love and honor and respect. So
Sequoia,
I do want to say that.
Yeah, it's very interesting that was what you tried to do. I had read, I'm a lawyer, and I had read this particular book called Book of Agreements. And in there's a chapter on divorce and how they wanted to treat each other going forward. And this particular chapter was as old friends. And so I had given my first husband that book, and I said, I want you to read this chapter. And he's like, why? And I told him why. And he's like, well, that'll be a cold day in hell. Like that'll never be. And he was like scorched earth and like this, you can go fall off the face of the earth, as opposed to let's still be friends and parent our children together. So it's too bad, that's the path he took, but it was the disintegration or the disintegration of a partnership. And what do you want it to be going forward? Because we still have 3 children to parent. And this was, several years ago, but, and my current husband, we actually did spend time coming up with a contract and an agreement and what we want to have happen and how we want to treat each other and how we want to be and what we want to build together. So it was a very different mindset. And I say I married an adult this time around.
Yeah. I mean, when we think about it, really, why would we treat someone who we have ever loved with any disrespect just because we're no longer in that? And I would say that this is the degeneration of relationships, is this ownership. And if you're not going to allow me to own you via marriage contract, then you're dead to me. This is an old paradigm that I am out to abolish, because I think it's why children suffer, because 2 people, and that comes from an old marriage model that is, and I'm
Property.
It's patriarchal. Yeah. There was an ownership of women. Women didn't own their own right to vote, didn't own their own property. Their dowry wasn't even theirs, and they were possessed by their parents, and then they got married off to somebody else who then owned them. And that is still that's when a woman decides to get out of a marriage, the man generally is very, very angry at her and will villainize her. And that is something that if we can just say, look, this doesn't work for me anymore, instead of you were wrong and there's all this evidence, that can change the dynamics. And I think it makes for better divorces.
Absolutely right. And Sonia, what I especially love that you pointed out is that you entered this second contract. And we enter contracts, our soul contracts, our community contracts, the state, the marriage license through the state, through religion, through your heart, through whatever. I mean, there's all different ways to make those connections. But what you were very, very clear on in your current relationship is that you established it early on. So really it's just allowing it to blossom and flow. But in the first marriage, you didn't know to do it. And that's one of the reasons why this series is so valuable.
Clueless. I didn't have good models, and nor did he. We both had terrible models. And while we had a lot of values and certain common activities and interests, it wasn't enough because we didn't have that fundamental agreement on what the relationship should be. And Renee, I haven't met you yet. Hello, I'm Sonia. The part about the divorce is it isn't working for me any longer. And we spent 3 years in marriage counseling. So it's like, what is not working about the relationship? And do we want to fix it? If you don't want to fix it and you want to keep going, then let's just call it a day and be fine with that, as opposed to scorched earth and, you're going to burn in hell. And it's unfortunate because I think if more people went in with the attitude of, oh, it's not working. He basically was like, if I can't have you, no one else is going to have you, that mentality. And it's like, wait a minute. So yeah, it was just a different attitude that didn't really, it came out in other ways that I look back on and can see, but didn't when I was in the middle of it. And I think, Michelle, the difference is somewhere along the line of working with a coach and going through, my own, therapy and whatever, is that I figured out I wanted a partner. And then I defined what partnership meant to me. Like, what does that actually entail? And so when you talk about the values, intellectual curiosity was one of those things. Doing good was one of those things. Togetherness, like doing things together. I mean, Greg called me clingy, which I'm not a clingy person. And like, for the people on here that know me are laughing. But that's what he called me, because I wanted to do things together. So that was something important in a partner going forward. So it was, it's been I was married for 25 years. It's not like I didn't give it a college try, but I just couldn't, like, for me, I'm a bitter ender. Like, I'm going to make it work. And I've done that with startups. I've done that with companies I've founded. I've done, and I did it with my first husband. But sometimes you just have to call it a day and say, this is not working. I don't know where that point is. So for me, and making relationships work, that's what I'm interested in finding out, is where do you call it? And you mentioned a little bit earlier on in the session, Michelle, but I'm interested in learning more about that in particular. But to my earlier point of, I defined what I wanted in a partner, and Kier was looking for a partner, and he had never been married before. So that desire for that absolute partnership and what it meant, that's what we worked on defining.
Beautiful.
I love what she was just saying, tying to your values. I call that lifestyle design. Mm-hmm. And lifestyle design, you have to be responsible for, if you have a specific lifestyle design values, then and that person doesn't match it, and you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, that is you not doing your work. And that's what I didn't realize, because I jumped into a marriage with a person that I didn't even know what his family was like. And this is why I actually have a policy now with everybody I coach. Do not get into a commitment with anybody until you've gone through at least 12 months or 24 months. Yeah. Because you have to see a person in all of the phases, the seasons, the holidays, the family, ups and the downs of, like, it does their business boom in the summer and then it falls in the winter, and you have to see that and you have to sit with it. You can't just, it's bigger than just the values. It's the whole lifestyle, and trying to build your life with someone who has a completely different lifestyle, that wants to live alone, and you want to have 20 kids. It's like that is just a recipe for disaster. But those are not things that children think about. I was a child, I was in my 20s. And that's really important. So there you go.
So I'm going to wrap it up here. We will continue to talk about the relationship cycle and how to transform that into a relationship spiral. And with all the aspects of that, including, as you were pointing out, it's important to know how to move things forward, how in a relationship, how to know when it's time to cut and run. What are the red flags? What are the green lights? How do you move from chemistry to casual to committing to being something bigger than yourself in a partnership? And how do you see the seasonality? And part of that, I think, is a decision that you make. And that is a contract. It's an agreement. That's a different word than contract. It's an agreement. And I always say, here's one of my cliche lines. You don't always know when it's wrong, but you know when it's right. So I'm going to close with that one tonight. Thank you for joining us, Sequoia. Thank you for sharing love leadership with us. And thank you all for being here. I can't wait to share with you a week from today. We are going to talk with Josette Jelva. And Josette is the rockstar stylist, tapping into the science of creating your unique stylized look to catch the attention you desire. So your physical appearance personifies the most magnificent version of you. Your homework this week is going to be to create that Who You Are Today board and that vision board of who you want your relationship or how you want your relationship to really, really look. And also, if you want to go deeper into finding your core values, I can help you with that as well, because those values you'll put into your vocabulary, you'll put it into your profile. Those 5 core values that you come up with will help ensure that all of the decisions that you make are in line with your authenticity and your goals of how to reach your vision board to go from Pain Island to Pleasure Island to your dream come true. So with that, I thank you all, and I will see you next week.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you, Sequoia. Thank